Hey guys, welcome back to Phil Plays TCG. It's been a little bit of a hot second. I appreciate you guys' patience and the fact that the channel's still growing when I haven't been uploading as often as I have been. I'm still living away from my house, where I'm at right now. I'm still living away from that in the meantime while there's work being done upstairs, which is making it not the easiest to stay here. So we're still living at at a relative's place for now. But I'm trying to come back as often as I can to make content for you guys, and it's that time, It's about a week and a half until the set officially releases here in the US for Set 5 New Adventure. It's time to make our prediction tier list. Now, normally I'm like the first person that does this, but I couldn't keep up with the other content creators like Corrosive Bullet, Tarmo Tim. They've put out their videos with Cody and other guests, and they're really good. I watched those videos because I'm not gonna lie, I've been a little bit out of practice since I've been home. Since I've been away from home, I haven't been able to play a lot on the client. I haven't been able to really test out a lot of these decks. I've gotten a few matches in here and there, still learning how to play them, but overall I had to talk with a lot of other content creators and a lot of other players to kind of get their ideas for this list here. So I'm going to do my best to give you my thoughts about what the meta is going to be looking like in Set 5. Now we have 6 tier lists here, going from top to bottom. We have the deck. This is the best decks in the format. Normally we don't want to see this. Normally we don't want to have a singular best deck in format because I feel like that is unhealthy. But there is a deck in this format that is going to be the best deck. Spoiler alert, it's too good of a deck, and I'll get into it. Next we have the best decks. These are decks that are going to be easily in the top 8 for big tournaments, can possibly win, that are going to be able to, these have a higher chance of winning tournaments, easily in the top 8, and are just the decks that you're going to have to be prepared for these big events to beat. Next, we have competitive, which are decks that are good depending on the matchup. These decks can play very well into best decks, maybe even the best deck, but for the most part, they have to take the right pilot and the right matchup to be competitive, but they're still going to be pretty good. Next up, we have rogue/high roll decks. Basically, these are decks that really not many people are going to be playing, but it's just, the decks that if you see what you need to see and you high roll, these can easily be in the best deck category or even in top tier. It's just all depending on if you see what you see, when you need to see it. And there are some decks here that are just very, very good, and then some of those decks are just very good into decks you wouldn't expect them to be good in. Then we have casual and local. Basically, like it sounds like, these are decks you want to play at your locals. These are decks you want to play just having fun with friends, but that's about it. You're not really going to be taking these to any type of big event because you're not going to win. Then finally you have needs help, and that's self-explanatory. The deck just needs help, and I'm just going to go ahead and add the one deck that is in that category. Oh, get out of there. You don't belong in casual. That is Daima Vegeta, or Vegeta Mini. This leader and deck is just bad. That it needs help. It needs support of some kind. It's just not a good leader. But yeah, that's just going to be the first deck of many. Let us figure... Oh, wow, he was quick. I didn't even catch him. My roommate, Jimmy. Let's start with... we're going to go through some of these fairly quick. Some of these are going to take a little explanation. But yeah, let's start with Starter Goku from Star Deck Set 1. He's casual local. He went from one of the best leaders in Set 1 and decent leader in Set 2 all the way down. He's just casual. He basically got power crept with some of the newer leaders, and he's just not very good. Well, he's solid for locals. He's a great deck for learning the game, but he does other leaders do his ability better. Next up we have Vegeta. I'm still putting Vegeta in one of the best decks. Vegeta in general is just a fantastic generic blue leader. He has an amazing generic ability. A lot of blue cards still rely on the 7 cards or less hand requirement, so that's perfectly fine. He's going to remain one of the best decks around. Blue is looking to be very powerful this upcoming set, and I think in general he's just very, very good. Blue got a lot of really good tools in set 5. Now, I probably should preface this by also saying that set 5, holy crap, is the most power crap set we have gotten. There are so many amazing cards. All the leaders are incredibly powerful, and a lot of older decks got decent archetype support that is helping them become a bit better. Overall, this is a turning point for the game, and I'm very curious to see how set 6 will follow this huge power creep up, because usually the only thing to do with power creep is to make it if you have a powerful leader in one set, you're gonna have to make the next leader even more powerful. So I'm very curious on how they're going to handle this power creep going forward. But like I said, Vegeta, one of the best decks. Broly, I think the fact that he's just a 25k body is still good, but the fact that there are so many cards that just kind of don't care that your leader's at 25. A lot of new cards we've gotten in aren't going to care, or a lot of new cards we got in this set are not going to care that you're a 25k leader. Broly is just kind of meh. He exists. He's in local tier. I think he's not as bad as, Daima Vegeta or needs help tier, but yeah, not great. Next up, we have Frieza. Frieza from the Star deck in set 1. Frieza, and just yellow in general, has gotten so much support in set 5. There are so many really, really good cards. There were cards that were great in set 4 as well, but I think now yellow is looking to take its place in the upper echelons of the meta. And just Frieza is just ridiculous. With the new secret rare that we got, which is a Frieza clan card, you can't mess with it. In the Frieza deck, that card is literally going to be untouchable because it has barrier, so you're going to be able to easily pick apart your opponent's field and swing in with a 30k body. It's just good. It's so good. Yellow is going to be very, very good. Next up, is that all the starter decks? Let's work with the starter decks real quick before we hop into set 1 stuff. Daima Goku, I'm going to throw him in competitive. I think he is this is the leader that power crept Goku, he's just incredibly powerful, and hold on, one technical difficulty here. Sorry, technical difficulty there. Speaking of Daima Goku, like I said, he is the card that the leader that power crept starter Goku, and he's a little bit of Goku and he's a little bit of Beerus. He is just a very good generic red leader, and I love to play him on the online client. He is really, really fun to play because the deck is just overall really solid. It's great. It's like board control, aggression. It does a little bit of everything, and it's a really good leader in my opinion. So I don't fault anybody for playing with this leader. Solid stuff. Next up, let's see. Other starter deck leaders. Where are you at? Bardock. Bardock, I'd say, is casual now. It's weird how Bardock went from one of the best leaders in competitive. You can make the argument for him being low competitive tier, but I just think that other black leaders are going to be playing better than him, and there's really no reason to play Bardock as a black leader. I think you're better off playing any of the other ones. He's still decent. He can still do some cool things, but overall, I think he is just not it. Let's see. Is that all the starter decks? Yeah, I think it is. Okay, let's start with set 1. I'm going to throw U7 Goku into competitive. U7 is just one of those archetypes that it continuously gets support every set, because for a while, from sets 1 through 4, it was all U7. Every set was just U7. So every red card in U7. So in God, if I can talk right, every red card in sets 1 through 4 was a U7 card of some kind. There were some that were different. A few cards that were U6, Gods of Destruction, stuff like that. But overall, most of it was Universe 7 support. So it's continuously been a good deck. It just hasn't been explored because there were other better red options. And for the most part, I think there still are. I think the deck is good. I think depending on how you play it, it's probably better to go like more mid-range aggro. But there's a lot of really cool cards that have been added into this set. I know TN, a lot of people are messing with the TN engine. But yeah, I think this is just it's a good deck. I don't think it has a great chance of winning any competitions, but it's at least a decent deck. Beerus, man, it's sad to say, but I think Beerus is just not it anymore. I think crit leaders have been power crept out of the game by a lot of the more aggressive, faster decks in the format. And this deck, in this meta, especially in this set, is looking to be much more aggressive and fast-paced. And I don't think Beerus is going to be able to hang with the rest of everybody, the rest of the meta. So I think Beerus is still good. You know, I don't know. Red still has a lot of really cool cards. I might change that. I might change Beerus up. But I think for now, he's kind of a casual deck. Nothing too crazy. The King of Hyrule goes into Hyrule Rogue. Goku Black did get an extra card in the new set sorry, not an extra card, a new Goku Black card that just helps its consistency. And I think the card is really, really cool. If you can get your Hyrule off with this deck, you can steamroll your opponent into victory. That's just Goku Black, and that's how he works. And I think that's not going to change. He's still a rogue deck. He's still a very... he's a gambling deck. You know, you Hyrule into a win, boom, you're good. Next up, we have Trunks. I'm going to throw Trunks into competitive. Trunks is a very fun deck, and it's a very big brain deck. It is something that if you can see the lines of play and you make the right moves at the right time, this deck is very, very good when it comes to resource management. The problem is he can resource management, probably one of the better decks for that. It's just, unfortunately, he has a hard time closing out games. His ability also is kind of rough now, being able to hit only 3 costs or less. There's so many great 4-cost cards now that it makes it a little more difficult to use his ability properly, unless you play cards at minus costs. But even then, there's so many cards that, like those 4-cost cards, have great on-play abilities. The fact that you don't want your opponent to replay them again, so putting them back into your opponent's hand is not the greatest. But I still think blue has a lot of amazing options of their own of play cards. So, I just think Trunks is a solid competitive deck, and the right pilot, it's pretty darn good. Androids, I'm still putting in competitive. I think Androids is... no, wait, I'm thinking... I still think Androids is in one of the best decks you can play right now. It's good. It keeps getting support. It didn't really get anything crazy, specifically this set, but it's just a consistent deck with all the other cards that it has gotten, to the point where the consistency is crazy in this deck. I don't think it's nearly as good as it used to be, but yeah, I would say that it's still one of the better decks in the format. Gohan is going to go into locals and casual. Gohan is just... how he has fallen from one of the best decks in set 1, a little bit in set 2, he is one of just... yeah, he's not even worth it anymore. It's crazy how these three, Gohan, Goku, and Broly, all were like top tier in set 1, and are now just casual at best. Green Gohan just hasn't really gotten anything to really boost his playstyle, and Green has kind of gone on to just be a more... Green's identity is just weird. A lot of colors' identities are different than they were in set 1. But yeah, Gohan, I can't really say too much about him. He's casual. Ginyu, I'm going to throw into the Rogue and High Roll deck. Ginyu got new cards, which is crazy. It got a Raccoon, Jace, Birder, and some other stuff in set 4 made it really interesting too. I think Frieza's Spaceship was that card that helped boost it. If you can build a wide board and just swing, and see your lines of play, this deck is really cool. It's really aggressive. It just takes the right matchup. And I feel like some decks, like the bigger leaders, like the 25k leaders, it's just not going to hold its own. But yeah, I'd say it's high roll. Cooler, one of the biggest glow ups in the game. I'm gonna put him in competitive. I think Cooler, like, I won't lie, I haven't seen much of Cooler. I haven't seen a lot of gameplay, but all I've been reading about from players and talking with other players is just how much better he has gotten with set 4 and set 5 cards. The Frieza Secret Rare is just a very good card in him. He can utilize it very well. It's a solid deck at this point. It's definitely on the lower side of competitive, but it is surprisingly, it's up there. Top Coup, yep, it is casual. Top Coup just could not recover after the Kefla limit to 1 and the Roshi ban and the Ribrianne ban. It's pieces that it needed to win, that needed to use to win matches. It doesn't have anymore. There were some players that were able to build decently competitive decks with him, but they're just at best casual, maybe at worst. So at best rogue, but not really worth mentioning too much more on. Zamasu. Let's throw him up here real quick. Zamasu is absolutely insane. Talking with Cody and just seeing the lines of play and the new card it got in set 5 that essentially makes his late game just ridiculous. It is so good. I'm so happy. I loved playing Zamasu. It felt like a fun, slow control build, and the pieces I got in set 4 made it much more competitive. And now with the addition of cards in set 5, Fuse Zamasu is looking to be ridiculously good. If you're looking to play blue at its best, I think blue Zamasu is up there. But it is definitely a more control-based option, while Vegeta is more aggro-based. This is from my boy Jamaid. Cell is, I think, a high roll deck. I think if you see the right pieces you need, and you can get your cells, back to back that heal you, KO bodies, I think the deck is pretty solid. It's definitely not as good as it used to be, but like I said, that's why this high roll / rogue tier exists. The right matchup, this leader can pop off, in my opinion. But like I said, I personally have seen Jamaid play this deck. I played against this deck a lot. I still think it has some legs to stand on. Next we have Yellow Vegeta, and I think Yellow Vegeta is right up here. Maybe underneath. These two are going to be tough. But Yellow Vegeta, like I said, with Yellow as a whole, got a huge buff in set 4 and 5. I think most Yellow leaders are going to be playable this set. And Yellow Vegeta just is that defensive Yellow deck. Has access to a lot of the new 2-cost cards, like Hell's Rakasha. God, I can't think what's an interesting name. But it is... If Frieza is the more aggressive build, Vegeta is the more control-y, like defensive build. And I just think Vegeta is going to be a pretty dang good deck going forward in this meta. Let's see here. That was set 2. Now we got set 3. We got Black GT Goku. This leader went from probably when it first released, it was a good deck, but at the time between it and Bardock, it was definitely not the best deck. The better of the two black decks. Now it's probably the best black deck in the game here. Spoiler alert. The deck is just very, very good at ending the game. Sure, it might have a slightly slower start, but ending the game, it is very, very powerful. Next, we have Piccolo, which, funny enough, I'm going to put Piccolo because he was in the needs help tier last time. But surprisingly, people have found ways to make Piccolo decent. Not amazing. I'm going to put him low competitive. If you see the right pieces you need, it steamrolls you. It really does. But against faster decks, it's going to have a bit of a problem. So maybe I put it into Rogue. I'll put it in Rogue. I think, depending on the matchup, it is a good deck. But it really just depends. Next up, Majin Buu. Put him in casual. I love this deck. I think it is a very fun deck. It was my fun deck in set 3. And hell, even a little bit, I played a little in the beginning of set 4. It's just fun, but that's really all it is. It doesn't do anything else crazy. It got power crept out by the other Majin Buu leader. So it finds its place here in casual. Jiren, I'm going to throw in competitive. I still think Jiren has some legs to stand on, but it just became a lot harder. Because one of its best matchups, Yellow, now became one of its worst matchups. And so Jiren just kind of is now going to fall a little bit because of that. Blue also got a lot of really good stuff, which is now making it a bit better into the matchup against Jiren. So overall, Jiren just isn't as good as he used to be, which is fine. I didn't really like Jiren all that much. Next up, we have Deku High School, Dragon Ball Evolution Goku. This deck is just really, really fun. It's incredibly consistent, but it's just not as good as it used to be. It got no support in set 5, which is fine. It got 2 sets worth of support. The deck is still really, really cool, but it's just not as good as other blue decks now. This deck has kind of been all over the place. It was kind of like casual, then it went to like one of the best decks in the format, possibly the best deck in the format for a little bit, and then now it's down to competitive. It is still a good deck, don't get me wrong, but it's just some of these other decks just kind of boss it around now. Before we hop into the new leaders, I don't know why they're over here. Let's head over to the set 4 leaders. Gohan, we'll throw him in. He's competitive. Not competitive, I'm sorry, casual. He's casual locals. This guy just bums me out. His strategy is neat, but he got 2 cards, at 3 technically, I guess, to really work with. And he got no cards to work with in set 4. It's super weird how we got a leader that didn't, like that from the previous set, that got no support in the next set. Really sad. I'll admit a couple of leaders did in set 4 did not get support in set 5, but Gohan's just kind of a tragedy because his deck entirely relies on his on the extra cards, and there were just not many good extra cards. So sadly, he is in casual. Next up, we have UI Goku, and I think UI Goku he's up there in competitive. I think he's good into yellow. From what I've been told and talked with other creators and players, he's great into yellow. He's definitely more of a slow grind deck. Put him above Trunks. But I just don't have a lot of his personal experience playing with him or against him. So this is probably going to be one of my weirder picks. I still think he's competitive, just not as good. Yeah, it's fine. I think maybe move Goku down over here. Green Vegeta, once again, just another one of those decks that just didn't really get a whole lot of support, and I think you kind of hurt him bad. He's just kind of a casual local deck. He's really cool. He can pop off, but for the most part, I just think there are better green decks to play, and his gimmick was just kind of that, a gimmick. Next up, we have Yellow Buu. I love Yellow Buu. I'm going to put him pretty high up there. I think... Oh, man, let's see. Yeah, I think Yellow Buu is just a very good deck. It's very aggressive. It can do hand control, board control a little bit. It's just a fun, very aggressive deck that didn't get a whole lot of support. It got like 1 new card, which the card is okay, but I think just in general, the deck is really solid. I like it. It's still going to be a pretty good deck in this upcoming format. And finally, Baby. Baby is just... Baby's good. Baby is one of the better decks in set 4. Probably was one of the best, if not the best deck in set 4. But it got 1 card. It got a new card, but that's about it. But I can't really think of too much. Like, it's aggressive. It can play mid-range. It can play long game. I think it's better mid-range, but it's not as good as GT Goku. All right. Guys, thank you so much for getting to this point. Now we are going to be talking about the new 5 leaders. And those cards are, starting off with GT Super... sorry, not GT. Oh my god. It's been a long day. I'm sorry. Daima Goku Super Saiyan. He is absolutely going into one of the best decks. He's probably going to be the best. He's probably up there as like top of best decks. Deck is stupid aggressive. Cards like Glorio should not exist, but the fact that this deck, and this leader in general can just be incredibly aggressive. It can clear out boards. It can just swing hella big into your life. It's very powerful. It's very aggressive. It and Glorio and Pansy are just some of the combinations you can do with this leader in this deck are just ridiculous. So, not really too much else to say about it. It's gross. We're throwing it up in one of the best decks. Vegito. I really hate to do this, but as much as I've been personally playing the deck, I'm going to throw Vegito into competitive. I'm going to put him... I'm biased. I'm going to put him at the top of competitive. He's good, but the problem is, it's a lot harder to get his awakening off as, at the right time, Most blue decks want to go long game, and I thought maybe, hey, let's play him at 60 cards. But when you play 60 cards, you're making it harder to find the pieces that you need. There's a lot of really good cards that this deck has, but overall, I think it's just too inconsistent, and I feel like it's a lot easier for your opponent to play around it. Sure, you're swinging in 40k. That's really, really good, and that's why I think it is still competitive. But I feel like too often you're on the back foot, and if your opponent can just survive long enough for you to deck out, and they can get rid of your Vegetos, then you just deck out and lose. You milling your super combos feels bad. I'm putting him in the top of best decks. I don't know. I want to say he's good, but I just don't know. The decks, the games that I've played, it can do really cool things, but like I was saying, the milling your super combos feels awful. You can get a couple cards back that you mill, but for the most part, it's just a very difficult... I think Vegito will see some topping spots, but I think overall it's just not as good as everyone's thinking it is. And the 4-cost card was great at reveal, but really it's just not it. It's not as good as what people were thinking. I think it's a good deck. It's just not as good as what people were thinking. Next up, we have Namek Goku, and I'm putting Namek Goku up there in one of the best decks. And this is mainly due to the fact that a lot of people I've been talking to have been hyping up this deck a lot. It's a very good deck if you can get, if you can know how to pilot it correctly. I thought, going down to 2 life and staying on the 2 to 3 life mark is really scary, really dangerous, but it's not as bad once you start getting your cards going, and the things you can do with this deck, like the board control, your swinging double strike crit is incredibly gross. It's cool. But I won't lie, I probably have the least amount of experience with this leader over all of them. Next up, we're gonna put Gogeta. I'm gonna put in competitive. I think Gogeta is a fine deck. It is a very generic deck. It can do some really fun things, I heard, with the other world package. There's a lot of really good black cards this set, like SS3 Goku SR, which I love. But I don't know. I feel like if you're playing a black deck, you might as well just play GT Goku or Baby. It's just not as good as those. That's just my opinion, of course. But yeah, that's really all I can say. is it's a good generic leader. It can do some really cool things, but I just think other black decks do it better. And finally, Janemba. Just gonna put him. He is the top. Janemba is the best deck in format. He is the deck. The deck is just stupid. This is actually one of those leaders that a lot of people are talking about may be on the chopping block or may be on the table to be the first banned leader, because this leader's ability is just too good. It's like Soul Striker and Dragon Ball Super Masters, being able to swing. You're gonna swing, restand 2 energy. The combinations, like the weird combinations you can do with this deck, there are so many cards that just restand energy on play, combined with your leader, make them damn near free, or just like 1 cost to play. Like Bio Broly, play for 5, restands 2 energy, swing with leader, restands 2 more energy. You just play that Bio Broly for 1 that drew you a card and have a 35k body on board, if I'm not mistaken. You have the 3-drop Janemba, which is absolutely stupid, because you play it, restands 1 energy, swing with your leader, restand 2 energy. You just played that 3-cost card now for free. You can use its ability you can play these Frieza Secret Rare, the best in this deck, because you play Frieza for 2, swing with leader, you play the Frieza for 4, swing with your leader, restand 2, swing with Frieza, tap 2 for Frieza's ability to wipe something off the board. It's just, there's so many different play lines of this deck. It can be aggressive, it can be mid-range, it can go long game. This deck and this leader can kind of do whatever. But overall, this deck is going to be the best in the format, and it's just kind of a consensus here. We all agree Janemba is going to be a problem. I don't know if it's going to be a problem on the scale of Top Coup, because I don't feel like there's a lot of really, really good cards in yellow, and yellow doesn't have a whole lot of bad matchups right now. Like blue, maybe, red, yeah. Red and blue are going to be good matchups into it, possibly black. But, I don't know. I'd say still Janemba is going to be the scourge of set 5 for sure. We'll have to see if they do an emergency errata to it, or if they just straight up ban the leader, but it is going to be a problem. Mark my words. But yeah, that will do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for checking out my prediction tier list of set 5. This is probably the least confident that I have been with a tier list, though. I won't lie. I haven't been able to get as much practice with these leaders as much as I have wanted to, but, you know, life gets that way. I just haven't been able to be around my computer and my setup. But yeah, I think this is what we are looking at going forward. Let me know what your thoughts and opinions are in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much once again for all of the support. We finally got to 2,400 subs. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. Only 100 subs away now from hitting 2,500 is our next big goal. And from there, we're just going to continue up to 3,000. That's the next big goal. If we can get to 3,000 subs by the end of this year, I'll be eternally grateful. Thank you guys once again. You are amazing. And I'll catch you on the next video. Take care, guys.